This happened almost 2 years ago. It was around 2 in the morning during the summer, and I was asleep. My blinds were cracked, but my room was on the second floor of the house. I woke up to my phone, vibrating against my pillow. The moon was shining through the blinds, dimly lighting up half of my room and leaving the other in the dark. It read, "No caller ID." I don't remember why, but I felt like I needed to answer it. Groggily, I mumbled, "Hello?" A man's voice that I didn't recognize replied after a solid and quiet few seconds. "Are you alone?" I couldn't think of what to say. I didn't say or do anything for what felt like minutes. I couldn't put a face or name to the voice. It was low and grumbly, and he sounded like he was moving. Finally, I said no and hung up. Seconds later, I heard the doggy door downstairs open. You all know the sound, but imagine that slowed down. My dog was in my bed, now moving towards me as I had woken him up. The doggy door closed. I sat in the unsettling silence, waiting for the sounds of footsteps coming up the stairs. Nothing. After a few minutes, I slowly got out of bed and made my way to my window, which overlooked the backyard. From there, I could see the back gate on the side of the house, slightly ajar. I stood there and stared, unsure about what to do. I quietly went downstairs, ready to face whoever or whatever had entered my house. But the back door was shut and locked. In order to get through the doggy door, the back door had to be open. This gave me some relief, but I was still unsettled. Someone had tried to enter my house. To the man who tried to break in and somehow found my old number, let's not meet, and shut the damn gate on your way out. The town I grew up in had an old sanitarium. It closed down in the late 60s, but the building was still there. In high school, everybody tried breaking in. Some succeeded, but others chickened out. After high school and a stint in the Marines, I found myself working private security. What we mostly did was guard construction projects at night. Well, the sanitarium was slated for demo, and the company that bought the land planned on turning it into an apartment complex. So myself and a guy who had to be pushing 70, named Fred, were working one night. Fred was a former cop from Chicago, and before that was a Marine. We often swapped stories, and we really enjoyed working together. The sanitarium was a hotbed for homeless and drug activity, so we often had to chase tweakers or homeless folks off the property. That night, Fred and I were shooting the shit when he stops me and tells me someone just went over the fence. We get out and head inside. Now it's important to note, Fred was unarmed and all I had was my side piece. We also had pepper spray, a stun gun, and a baton. So we are headed after this guy who was wearing all black and wasn't responding to our commands to stop. We hear glass breaking and realize this guy must have broken into one of the old administrative offices. We have keys to the door, but the locks are old and it takes us a few minutes. Our protocol was to call dispatch to advise them of a foot chase, so Fred did that as I swept the rooms with my flashlight and gun. I'm calling out to this dude, and I hear an evil cackle. It sent a jolt of dread throughout my body, and Fred, next to me, turned white. I start pleading with this guy to show himself, telling him the company called the police, which they did not. Now, the laughing is coming from behind us, and it's not one voice. It sounds like several voices. Fred literally pisses himself. He's terrified, and he's a former cop. Fred and I turn to leave, and I hear what sounds like footsteps, then the unmistakable sound of a gun cocking. I grab Fred, and we run for it. As we do, we hear more laughing. The cops finally do show up, because dispatch couldn't reach us and called it in. They go in, and they find 3 guys. All 3 were armed, one with a gun, one with a homemade shiv, and another one with a lead pipe. If we hadn't run, who knows what could have happened. When I was about 15, I got really sick with bronchitis for 2 weeks. One snowy morning, during that time period, I was home alone with my younger brother. I was laying on the living room couch with him sitting on the floor next to me, watching TV. We start to hear some strange sounds from the basement, but I shrugged it off, figuring it was probably just the furnace or some pipes. The house was from the 1800s, but the sound grew louder, and I was beginning to get creeped out. I wasn't saying anything to my brother though, because I didn't want to alarm him, just in case it was actually just the house settling and I was just being totally stupid. I should explain the setup of my house a little bit. There was a hallway off the living room that contained the bathroom and basement door. From where we were sitting in the living room, I could see the basement door clearly. In the basement, there was a door that led to the backyard, but it was pretty difficult to open. So I was sitting and watching the door because I was purely paranoid at this point, and all of a sudden, I heard and saw the doorknob move ever so slightly. I jumped up and told my brother to grab the landline so I could call our mom. She told us to put a chair in front of the basement door and call the cops immediately. I did just that, and they were on the way. The doorknob moved a few more times, along with some strange tapping and knocking. It's safe to say that we were scared shitless. We sat quietly and watched the door the entire time we waited. When the cops arrived, we discovered there were big footprints in the snow going down our driveway and into the backyard. They looked around, but found nothing. There wasn't even anything missing. This just happened last night to my girlfriend. I got 2 texts from her around midnight saying that someone was trying to break into her room. Now, she lives in a basement suite with 4 other rooms. 2 of them are vacant. The other guy is a little odd, but he is very well mannered and is a good roommate, so I don't think it was him. Anyway, she tells me that someone kept rattling her doorknob, and when she asked who was there, nobody answered. The rattling stopped, then continued again 5 minutes later. She asked again, and no response. It rattles again for another 5 minutes or so before finally stopping. She's scared, and I'm already on my way with the cops on the line. When I get to her place about 50 minutes later, I live south of the city she's in. I notice the side door that my girlfriend always locks is open. Wide open, and there's a painting laying on the floor, like somebody knocked it over. I have my flashlight, not wanting to turn on the main lights in case somebody is there. My flashlight will blind them. I walk down the stairs and check every corner and vacant room. Nothing. Nobody. I get my girlfriend and we go sit in my car. She's visibly shaken. By 3 in the morning, the cops still didn't show up, so I called them back and told them to don't bother coming because they're taking too long. However, nothing was stolen. Nothing. Whoever it was just went straight to my girlfriend's room and tried to get in. That scares me the most. Maybe it was an old roommate or just some person who took advantage of an open door. But whoever you are, leave her alone.